In this American exclusive, News Nation anchor Rudabeh Shabazi sits down for a wide-ranging interview with a woman who says she is Jamal Khashoggi's wife.
And they talked about the lawsuit she filed against the imam who performed their marriage ceremony, what Khashoggi told her about the Saudi royal family, and his message tonight to the world. Rudabeh.
Marnie and Rob, two women in two separate court filings, both claiming to be slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi's wives. One was filed by Hati Cengiz, widely known as his fiancée. She was the one waiting for him outside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul as he was being murdered inside by a team of assassins tied to the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. She alleges that she is his widow, that they were married in a religious ceremony in September of 2018, and that he was lured to the embassy in order to obtain documents to civilly confirm their marriage. She is now suing Mohammed bin Salman personally, along with a number of other Saudi nationals. I spoke with Hanan El-Atr, who also married Khashoggi in a religious ceremony in June of 2018, and is now suing the imam who performed that ceremony to sign papers to certify that their marriage should be legal. It should be noted, though, that although bigamy is not legal under state law in the United States, it is permitted within the Muslim faith and therefore considered legitimate to Ms. El-Atr. She says she didn't come forward earlier because she feared for her own safety and that of her family, because she says she's already been arrested twice in Dubai because of her relationship with Khashoggi. But now she's seeking asylum in the United States, and she says she's speaking out because she wants to deliver his message and to have the right to give him a proper burial. I first want to start with the report that was released, the declassified report, basically saying that the Crown Prince signed off on the assassination of Mr. Khashoggi. Can you tell me your response?
My response, I'm very devastated and I have a very mixed feeling because I'm a wife of Jamal, and I can confirm to everybody Jamal was more closer to the kingdom more than anyone else imagine. He was in America by his body, but his soul was Saudi Arabia, which is make me thinking how come they take this horrible decision to just make a trap for him and assassinate him.
What do you make of the fact that he was not personally sanctioned by the Biden administration? When he was campaigning, the president promised to sanction MBS if it became apparent that he was involved in this assassination, yet he hasn't sanctioned him personally.
I really don't understand the American policy and how the political rules go in America. But I'm happy about President Biden. He kept his promise.
What about the fact that former President Trump did not release this report?
This is a question mark as well for me. As I mentioned, I don't know how is American political rules going and how is it toward Middle East.
A lot of people were surprised to hear from you because a lot of people thought that he was committed to this fiancé who was waiting outside the embassy for him. Can you tell me why you want to share your story now and what you know about that other woman?
I don't know anything about this woman. I hear about her from TV like anyone else in the world. I don't know anything about her. I don't know what's behind her. Why I came out now? Because I didn't have the freedom to speak and say the truth about my husband for 2 years. Now I'm free to talk. Now I have a duty toward my husband to keep his legacy and to say his real message is not being delivered yet. That is the reason I come out now. And I will do it always to defend him and to keep his legacy and to tell the world how much he suffered.
Ms. Cengiz, the woman who says she was his fiancée, she was outside that embassy waiting for him. Do you have any interest in talking to her and working together to help bring justice for your husband?
No, I don't, because I really don't know. After this all of polarization and political use, I'm not sure about this woman's situation. And because I'm standing alone, I refuse to stuck in any agenda.
There was never an official recognition of your marriage, right? And you've now sued the imam who who performed the ceremony. Can you talk about that and why it was never officially recognized?
I've been arrested after I got engaged, and I have a big family, and I'm worried about my brother, sister, and my family to get affected with my choice, which is, I believe it's the right choice in my life. That's pushed me and Jamal not to publish our marriage in social media or put it in a newspaper. We don't want to trigger more problem, because I was full of fear, full of scared. When they took me, I never experienced this in my life, detained me for 17 hours investigation. This all change our decision from the ceremony to have a reception and to announce it and let everybody know who I am. My main issue, me and Jamal, just to get married in the beginning under eye of God, according to our Islamic religion. I did not allow it, my husband Jamal Khashoggi, to go to Saudi embassy in Washington and to take a permission to get married to me, because I'm not Saudi citizen. I don't have a Saudi passport. I stopped Jamal.
You understand why some people seeing this might say, well, if their marriage is recognized, then she'll be entitled to any claim against the Saudi government, and so maybe there's money involved. What do you say to that?
I never ask for this, and I'm not the one done a case asking for money, and then anyone can trace this and see my performance and my attitude.
I know that you loved your husband very much, I can tell. If it turns out that he was about to marry someone else, is that okay with you? If it turns out that is the truth, would you have accepted that?
Yes, because he done it before. He had 2 wives before. I'm a 4th wife, but he had two wives with him before together.
My understanding is that he was going to transition from journalism into starting a political organization, a pro-democracy political organization, and that might have been part of why he was targeted.
He was never going to leave his journalism, but he did not. He left with no choice, in sense they did not give him the freedom to be advisor to his country and to fight for freedom, justice, democratic, equal rights for human, and to be one of them as well. He doesn't want to be enemy for his country, but in the same time, he doesn't want to keep quiet. He was thinking about some form to implement democratic. You can call it organization, you can call it a party, you can call it a group, but he was thinking about to create something to support democratic.
Okay, so why do you feel that they went to this extent to carry out this murder?
I really cannot explain this crazy and sick. If they know the truth, they will regret. No one knew how much Jamal was closer to go back. When the Crown Prince visited U.S. in the beginning of 2018, Jamal was expecting a call from the people around him or from the Crown Prince to meet him and to listen to him and to give him the opportunity to advise regarding his country, for a future of his country. I don't know how this decision been taken.
Can you tell me what he told you about the Crown Prince? I know he was close to his father.
Frankly, he loved all of them.
He loved the Crown Prince?
He was supporting the royal family. He was faithful, yes. He was very optimistic because he believed Crown Prince, he's a young in age, healthy, because most of them reach the rule old, and some of them have a medical issue. He believed the Crown Prince is still young and he have a vision and he's starting fight corruption, but Jamal have a lot of point to say to the Crown Prince, which no one give him the chance and not been heard.
Well, he was very critical of MBS in his columns in the Washington Post. I mean, don't you think that's the reason he was targeted?
In our house, I assume the high authority or the one who take decision to have my husband, it did have a wrong information about my husband, did not have the truth about my husband.
So you said that you wanted to do this interview today to bring the truth about him and to deliver his message. What is his message?
I know for sure I'm not going to see my husband anymore. And I'm glad the whole world together for Jamal, and he deserves, and he must be happy now, because he used to feel down and he think no one care about him, no one value his movement. I tell him, Jamal, no, the whole world changed. After you being killed, the reason he ran away from Saudi Arabia because he want to talk about the freedom of everybody. I need everybody help, and I'm asking King Salman ibn Abdulaziz Al Saud, please, of the price of blood of my husband, release all the political prisoner in Saudi Arabia. All of them, no exception. I want all of this prisoner to be released. I'm not asking about revenge. I want to save the people still alive. We need together, all of us, to put the pressure to save people life. Jamal is not here, but we all can continue with his message, with his mission. And this is my duty now, and I will go on with this.
And we did reach out to the imam who performed their marriage, but have not heard back. We also have not heard back from Hati Sengiz's attorney. Marnie?